first congenial Jesus for American Christians to consider and avoid is the intellectual sage. Our culture adores cleverness, being quick, being smart, being brilliant. It shouldn't be any surprise for us that for Christians in the United States to value Jesus, they would want to primarily see him as an intellectual sage. United States Christians, whether scholarly or non-scholarly fundamentalists, whether conservative or liberal, primarily see Jesus as the intellectual sage. One very popular version of this congenial Jesus is the teacher, who for fundamentalist Catholics becomes a vehicle for exaggerating the doctrinal side of Christianity. With this identity theft of Jesus, the magisterial role of bishops becomes exaggerated and warped, as do the virtues of docility and obedience, as does the idea of the sin of dissent. Jesus, the intellectual sage, serves various Catholic fundamentalist agendas. But also among biblical scholarship in the second and third quest for the historical Jesus, we can see plenty of Western scholars who value seeing Jesus as the intellectual sage. In the 1930s, biblical scholars in Germany presented Jesus as if he was a trilingual Greco-Roman sophisticate who could be found attending plays at theater. In the 1990s, Robert Funk and his Jesus seminar presented yet another version of the intellectual sage, the itinerant cynic. Here Jesus resembles a philosopher or academic, spliced together with a 1960s American wise-ass, trading pithy sayings like, "Congratulations, you poor." Folks, the pre-Paschal Jesus was not Mr. Spock, not Sherlock Holmes, not Dr. House. All versions of Jesus, the intellectual sage, are idealized American autobiographies, identity thefts congenial to our Western cultural values. All of this stems from focusing too much on the sayings of Jesus, the teachings of Jesus, the proverbial sayings and the parables. If scholars were to focus rather first on the doings of Jesus, primarily his healings, they would have arrived at a completely different Jesus than the intellectual sage. We need to remember that Paul didn't care about the sayings of Jesus. He barely even quotes him. All Paul is interested in is Jesus the risen one. Something to think about.